Sunday, everyone. Okay, I am still just getting organized here, and we are going to have some fun today. I am going to share a family favorite recipe with you. This is one of my favorites, my husband's favorites, my children's, my brother's, my mom's. Pretty much everybody that's tasted it, I think, loves it. And this is a recipe from my grandma. And when she made this, it wasn't keto, but it's going to be today. So this is my Grandma Hawkins version of Swiss steak. So hang around with me. And here I thought I was all on top of things, and I forgot to turn on my do not disturb on my phone, but it's done now. Okay, if you were with me on Friday, we made mushroom soup that is keto. So if you missed that, go back and watch the video from Friday, whether you're eating it on its own or using it in a wonderful recipe like this. You will love it if you love mushroom soup. If you're not a fan of mushrooms, substitute celery in place of the mushrooms. So let's get started. Now, the very first thing that we are going to need is a cup of coffee. And today I have my sugar-free amaretto in here. This is wonderful. I absolutely love the amaretto. Now, if you have a package of stew meat in your fridge or your freezer, or you're going grocery shopping and you want to buy that, then that's fine. If not, use whatever beef you have. You can make meatballs and do it that way, or you can use whatever kind of beef you have. Now today, this is some eye of round off of a large roast that I had that I'm going to be barbecuing a little bit later today. Now I'm drying off the slices, and the reason that I'm doing that is because we need to brown this. And so we're going to be heating up our frying pan and browning it in there. If the meat is really wet, it's not going to brown well. So let's turn our frying pan on about medium heat. This gets a little bit messy because it splatters a little bit, but that's okay. You don't want to fill your frying pan too full. If you fill it too full, you have too much liquid in there and too much cold, and it's going to bring the temperature of your frying pan down. So you want to put, now just let me finish cutting this. You want to put just enough beef in there that you can easily turn it as it gets browned, and then we'll add it to a different pot. When we get done browning this beef, you don't want to miss out on all of those wonderful little caramelly bits on the bottom. So we're going to deglaze the pan just with some water. Okay, so we have our beef all dried off. Now we're going to cut this into bite-sized chunks. This is a recipe that needs to go in the oven. You want to preheat your oven to 350, and then after an hour or so you want to turn it down to 325, 300. The lower you can cook this and the longer you can cook it, the more tender it will be, and it will just be all folly-a-party in your mouth. Folly-a-party is they are two words. I'm pretty sure. They're words in our house. Okay, now you can see that I'm just making these into, well, maybe a little bit bigger than bite-sized pieces, but pretty close. When you can cut them with your fork, doesn't much matter if they're a little bit too big. Now we're just going to let this pan, it is starting to smoke a little bit already. We'll move this oil around a little bit and just set these, set a few of these in the oil. Now this is immediately going to stick to your pan, and that's okay. Don't worry about that. It's going to release once it's caramelized enough. And they only need a minute on each side. If you take your time and you do this on each side of the beef, you are going to have a much deeper, wonderful beefy flavor. Now these aren't releasing just yet, so they're not quite ready to, oh, that one is. There we go. So yeah, when they're done, just give them a half turn. Or half turn, quarter turn. We want every side caramelized. Okay, I'm just going to give that one a little bit of help, and this one too. You don't want this cooked through. We're just browning this. So the cooking part of it and the making it tender part of it, that magic is going to happen in the oven. Okay, now this one is a little bit bigger, so I'm going to cut this in 3 strips so that the pieces are about even. Now when you're doing something low and slow in the oven, and you've got time to do it for hours and hours, the size of the pieces doesn't matter quite as much. Don't get rid of this fat. That is beautiful, and it's going to add wonderful flavor to our dish. So you definitely want to keep that in there. Okay, now let's just finish cutting this up so that we have almost the same size pieces. Now a lot of this you can see is quite lean, and that's okay because we're keeping the fat cap on this piece of meat that we're cutting up, and so it's going to add a little bit of fat. Now we're going to give these a flip one more time, and see those have just lifted right off. Once they're caramelized, they just come right off. The muscle fibers relax a little bit, and they just lift away from the pan. Okay, now once you get this cut up, now you can do much bigger pieces if you like. Once you get this cut up, now I only put a few pieces in here, but you can see how beautifully they're browning. And I'm going to move these over to one side and start some more pieces because this pan is nice and hot again. And our pieces aren't going to get mixed up because they look so different. Okay, now we're going to let these guys start. And the other ones are going to be done in just a second. So we are going to put those in our pot that's going to be going in the oven. Okay, so now we can put a few more pieces in here. Now this is 1 pound of beef. So you can do a much bigger batch if you like. You can do a smaller batch. This freezes really well, and it keeps in the fridge really well. And the leftovers are always amazing. So make lots and put it away on a cold winter night when you want something that, well, for me, it not only warms me inside my stomach, but it also warms my heart because I think of my grandma every time. And for those of you who don't know, my grandma was my hero. She was an amazing lady. So I am very grateful to her for this recipe and to my mom for teaching me how to make it. So let's see if these are releasing yet, and they are, so we'll just turn them over. Now, if you don't have time to do this, you could do one big piece and sear it on both sides and then cut it up. There's nothing wrong with that. This is another one of those times where your preference is the way it should be done. That's just as easy as it is. Okay. Whoops. Now, I want to let you know, if you are joining me in central Alberta, some of the farmers markets are coming to an end. Now, I'm going to be really starting to do things online with CSO Organics. I haven't been this summer. I've been a little bit busy, but I'm getting less busy. So the Innisfail Farmers Market is now done for the year. And I only have 2 weeks left in Rimbey and Lacombe. So if you are wanting to stock up on spices and seasonings before the Christmas market, come down and see me at the farmer's market. If I'm in your area, I would love to chat with you. It's always wonderful to hear how people are using my seasonings in their home. Now, some of the people that I talk to at the markets are keto people, and other people are not. but my spices are not keto. They're just amazing, and I mean they are good for people doing keto, but they're good for everybody else too. Okay, now these are getting browned. You can see that the caramelization is just wonderful. Now, when you have something like this, and you can, we'll see if we can get the light looking at that so you can see it. Caramelized like that. Now, it looks a lot darker in the camera than it actually is, but that is what gives you a lot of the beef flavor in your dish. So, take the time to do that, and you will definitely be rewarded. Okay, we're just going to turn this one over a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to turn that pan off, and I'm going to let them use up the heat of that pan, because that's going to give us a little bit more caramelly bits on the bottom. Okay, now while we're waiting for those to finish, we're going to start making our Swiss steak sauce. And this is an amazing sauce. One of my absolute favorites. Did I mention that my grandma was my hero? I think I might have mentioned that. Okay. This is our mushroom soup that we made on Friday. You want 500 milliliters of mushroom soup. Now, you'll notice that this is pretty thick. You can let this reduce down as much as you want, and you can freeze it. So if this is something that you want to have for later, you can definitely freeze it and love it later on. Now, I need something to scrape this out with. There we go. Because you don't want to miss a bit of this. Now, why did I make mushroom soup instead of just going to the store and buying a can of mushroom soup? Because when you go to the store and you buy a can of mushroom soup, and it doesn't matter, in my experience, it does not matter what brand you choose, there are ingredients in it that I cannot identify, which means I shouldn't be eating them. And in everything that I've looked at, there's sugar in it, or cornstarch, or wheat gluten, or all three. Those are definitely not keto. Now you can hear this pan is not sizzling so much anymore, so that tells me it's cooling down. Oh, and look at how beautifully those are getting all nice and brown and caramelly and wonderful. Oh, this is making me hungry right now. And that is part of the problem making this recipe, is everything smells so good. Now you'll notice I did not put salt and pepper on these when we put them in the pan. And that's okay because they're cooking in the sauce. So our salt and pepper are going to be in there. If you want to salt and pepper them, you can. But I did not. Now we have 500 milliliters or 2 cups of our homemade mushroom soup. And to that, we are going to add 45 milliliters of TSL Organics Worcestershire sauce. Now, when you go to the store and you buy Worcestershire sauce, I promise you it's not keto. Read your labels. Now, if you're okay with using something that is not keto, then that's entirely up to you. But if you want your recipe to be 100% keto, you just need to let me know. This I do not carry at markets, but I do special orders. It's not something that is used lots and lots. So, yeah, I do special orders for that one. Now, the next thing that we are putting in here is 45 grams of yellow mustard. Now, I use French's organic mustard. It is 100% keto. Okay, and then I love mustard, so I'm making sure I get it all in here. And then after that, we're going to put in 45 grams of ketchup. Now, we made ketchup together, and it is keto. Now, remember, though, when you're making ketchup, it is a tomato-based sauce. So it is going to have some carbs in it, but if you make it keto like we did together here, there's not going to be nearly as much in it. Now, those ingredients are the most important in the sauce. So we are going to put this in here, add our beef to our sauce, and then we are going to deglaze this pan because all of this yumminess in the pan, we do not want to lose that. So I am just going to pour 250 milliliters of water. That's our keto water, right? Okay, well, that is one of the things when you're doing keto that you want to make sure you get enough of. And if you find yourself partway through the day getting tired or just kind of feeling off, have a bottle of water and see if that helps. And you know, I cannot tell you how many times I have come home after being out at whatever event all day, and I'm just really feeling tired and lazy and just want to sit down and do nothing except watch TV or go to bed. Now I'm just going to let this boil and get all of these beautiful little beefy bits off the bottom of the pan. If I'd done this while it was hot, it would have just sizzled quick and would have come right off. Okay, well, we're going to let that do its thing for a minute or two while we mix this up. Now remember, we haven't put salt and pepper in here. So just salt and pepper to taste. There's no rule here. I like a fair amount of pepper, and so does Del. And salt, just a wee bit. And then do a taste test. There's nothing in here. There we go. That's boiling. That's going to get everything off the bottom. There's nothing in here that you can't eat before it goes in the oven. Rare steak is fine. The mushroom soup we cooked the other day, so we know it's fine. And everything else is ingredients that you usually eat raw. Well, I guess maybe not the Worcestershire sauce, but it is fine to eat raw too. Okay, there is our cup of water with all of our wonderful, juicy, beefy bits in it. Now the water is important in here because when we put this in the oven, and we want it in the oven for as long as we can put it in the oven, when we put this in the oven, we want to cook it low and slow, and we want it to, oh, I just lost my word. We want it to evaporate. There you go, found my word. And as it evaporates, all of the flavors come together in here. And it just makes the most amazing dish, in case I haven't mentioned that. Okay, that is really all there is to it. So we have a pound or 450 grams-ish of beef. Now there's enough sauce in here that you could add more beef, but do remember that this sauce is going to evaporate in the oven, so it's going to get thicker and it's going to turn into this beautiful brown gravy. We've got 500 milliliters of the mushroom soup that we made on Friday, 250 mils of water that we used to deglaze our pan that we cooked our beef in. Now, if you're doing this in a Dutch oven, you can sear the beef in the same pot that you're putting in the oven. I didn't do that today only because I wanted you to be able to see what was going on over here. So, 250 mils of water, 45 mils of TSL Worcestershire sauce, 45 grams of mustard, 45 grams of ketchup, salt and pepper, and a little bit of oil in the pan before you put your meat in there. Okay, now this needs a taste test before it goes in. Yep, that's where we want it. Just like that. Okay, now we will take this out. 350 degree oven for the first hour-ish, and then turn it down to 320. If you want to cook it for 2 or 3 hours with a lid on and then take the lid off and let it evaporate for another 2 or 3 hours, the longer you cook it, the happier you're going to be. I promise you that. You can use whatever kind of beef you like. You want to do meatballs? I would recommend that you use a leaner beef so you don't end up with a lot of fat in here. You do want some, but you don't want it to be super fatty. So if you're here with me today, say hi in the chat. Let me know that you're here. And you know, it would help if I actually had things in the right spot. There we go. Now if you talk to me, I can definitely see it. So we're going to put this in the oven, and I am going to show you what we do with it afterwards. You want to do some time traveling with me again? Here we go. Let's do some time traveling. Okay. And it is coming over. Now this, I've got to be honest with you, this is not as done as it will be, but it is definitely done enough that we can do a taste test. So here we go. Now you can see already, look around the edge of the pot, how brown that's getting. And this gravy, the color of this gravy is already getting deeper. Now this has been in the oven for about an hour and a half. So not nearly as long as I want it to be in the oven, not long enough to really make this beef as tender as it should be, but definitely long enough that we can do a taste test. So what do you eat this with? Well, you know, realistically, that is mushroom soup in there, so you can put it in a bowl and eat it. Good morning, Mom and Dell. Okay, now, when I was a kid growing up, we would put this over rice or potatoes, whichever, and that was wonderful and delicious, but rice and potatoes are not keto, are they? Well, not the old school ones, but I want to show you a product. Now, I've mentioned this before, and in Canada you can get this at Loblaws stores. So Superstore, oh, here we go, Superstore, maybe No Frills, I don't know, but this is a Konjac Noodle product. So it's shaped like rice, but it has no carbs. Now, do you want to sit down and eat this whole package all by yourself? Absolutely not. But we are going to take a little bit. Now, this is rinsed really well in water, and you have to rinse konjac noodles or konjac rice because the fluid that it's stored in takes on, I don't know, it has kind of a weird smell. So rinse it really well. You don't need to heat it up, but you can if you like, if you want to do like fried rice. And then a little bit in the center of your plate. And something to dish it up with. Now I'm going to be a little stingy with this because I want most of it to go back in the oven. Now you can make your plate as big or as small as you like, but that is beautiful, and it's going to continue to get even more beautiful as it reduces down in the oven. Now, if we've done this properly, we shouldn't need to season this rice, although if it was hot enough, I would definitely put some butter on it first. That is a gift from my grandma. So, take your mushroom soup and make some Swiss steak, because now you know how to make Swiss steak that is not tomato based. And because we used mushrooms, or if you want, you can use celery, it is way lower in carbs than any tomato based Swiss steak recipe would be. So who knew that my grandma was going to be helping me on my keto journey before keto was even a thing as far as any of us knew. Now, if you have a favorite recipe that someone in your family has made for you over the years, and you would like to share that with me to see if we can keto it, please feel free to send it to me. I am always happy to do my best to try and keto a recipe, and it gives me something new to try, and maybe will help some other people in their keto journey as well. So I hope that this week you will try this recipe. Make some mushroom soup or some cream of mushroom soup or cream of celery soup, and let your family enjoy it, and make some Swiss steak and let me know how it goes. And I will be here again on Wednesday morning. I know you love this, Mom, and this is beautiful. Now, I don't know whether Mom was here when I said it earlier, but this is my grandma's recipe, and I will be forever grateful to her for that. But it was my mom that taught me to make it when I was a little girl. So, do this. You won't be sorry. It's keto, and it will help you on your keto journey, and it is a great way to feed your keto kids. So if you have to choose between a piece of fruit or something like this that they can grab out of the fridge, choose this. Choose tuna, choose sardines, choose something that's keto. Do not fill your kids full of sugar. Keto kids are healthier, happier kids. You can do it. I will see you Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Mountain. I'm not exactly sure what we're doing on Wednesday morning, but I have a feeling that it might have something to do with keto bread, because we are going to continue with our Thanksgiving theme, because we have Thanksgiving coming up in a couple of weeks in Canada. And if you're in the States, well, I guess you're going to have these recipes in your back pocket to use then. So have an amazing week. Do your very best to live your best version of this shining life, and be kind to people. Thank you for joining.